brewing-wise, what are you most excited for the rest of this year? What are you looking forward to kind of accomplishing?
Oh boy, now I'd have to look at our brewing schedule for the rest of the year.
And we come with the hard-hitting questions.
I know, right?
Yeah. On this episode, we're joined by Short Fuse head brewer Brian Largo. This is episode 55 of The Malting Hour.
What's the haps on the hops? Got yeast, that's beast. This the Molten Hour where we talk about our drink and tell you what we think every other week. And if we get drunk, well, we might slur our speech. Got the gift of gab, the friends you wish you had. Join us for a drink, join us for a laugh. Time is never wasted, where you getting wasted. The Molten Hour here, people take your places. People take your places. People take your home.
Welcome to The Malting Hour. It's our first. That's weird to do without the song. It's our first time being somewhere together and not Zooming and out and about in a very long time. And before we get into that, I am one of the hosts of The Malting Hour, Tony Golick, joined always with
Brandon Winninger.
And the poet laureate of the group,
Clark Fettridge.
Do you have a poem for this?
Was a Mettridge, and he didn't have anything in his fridge.
I shouldn't have let him record.
Sorry. I'm very nervous being in person again. It's very hard.
Brian just checks his watch to see how long this is going to go. Can we wrap this up?
Guys, you're a minute in. You're over the limit. As mentioned, we are out and about, and today we are in Schiller Park at Short Fuse Brewing Company, and we are joined with brewer Brian. Brian, thank you for joining us, man.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Fun way to spend a Saturday morning on this hot spring day.
I know. Sure it's spring?
Yeah,
It skips
no
right
kidding.
to summer,
The
right?
high is going to be 88 today. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm not complaining, and especially with the beer that I'm drinking, this peach sour beer. It's refreshing, and I feel like this is fitting. But before we get into all those beers and everything, Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at Short Fuse?
Head brewer. I've been here, let's say, about a year and a half now. Prior to that, I was at Goose Island for 5 years, mostly in brewing. Then I was in R&D for, let's say, 6 months or so, and then my last few months training in the cellar. And before that, head brewer at 1090 for a little over a year. And prior to that, we're just going to keep going back. I did the Siebel Master course in 2013.
Oh, wow. It's an impressive resume.
It's building on it a little bit. Yeah.
That's cool. Did you just decide to make the transition over here to Short Fuse?
Yeah. So, trying to think.
What brought you over
Right.
here?
It was probably towards the end of my time at Goose, like the end of 19. We had just had our second kid, so I was off for paternity leave for about 3 months, and I came back to shift work, and I was like, oh man, like shift work with a couple kids and like driving from the suburbs to Chicago and back every day. It's like, this is kind of like brutal. And I had actually, I had a message from Nick, the owner here, on LinkedIn, and I never check LinkedIn. It just popped up in my email, and he's like, hey, looking to hire somebody, wondering if you'd be interested. And I was just like, I don't know. So then, I get back to Goose for about a month of working, and I was just like, I don't know, maybe I'll kind of feel that email out, or if it doesn't work out, maybe there's somebody here at Goose that would be interested. And one thing kind of led to another. I had some good interviews with Nick, and I was just like, I'm going to take a chance and do it. It's been a good change. It was a great time at Goose, but I think life things in general, it's worked out for the best, and it's been really good working here.
Awesome.
I always wonder, how does an interview go for a brewer? Like, do you have to bring in samples of your beer?
You think it put you through the ringer.
Brew something on our system right now.
Come back in a month.
Yeah.
We'll let you know if you get the job.
Yeah, some interviews can be pretty brutal. I remember towards the end of Siebel, people were interviewing Sierra Nevada and New Belgium, and some of the smartest people in our class, and those interviews really put you through the ringer. And I was kind of nervous. I was like, oh man, these guys are having a tough time with interviews. I'm screwed. But thankfully everything worked out for everybody. But for the most part, they're pretty laid back, talking about what was your role, and what have you been doing? What would you like to do? What are your interests? And I think the second round of interview, we probably drank more beer than we talked about like the job. So they're pretty laid back.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
That's how I got the job at Inclusion Solutions today.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, took me out drinking.
Let's see how much.
And then what happened?
And then you fired me.
Oops.
So you went through your career of your resume, I should say, resume of brewing. How did you get into brewing? Did you start like us, home brewing?
Yeah. Kind of. Kind of not. So I had I read an article either in Time Out or Chicago Magazine. They were highlighting breweries in Chicago and talking about head brewers or brewmasters or whatever. And I forget who it was, but they had mentioned they went to Siebel. So I was like, there's a brewing school in Chicago? It's like, that can't be true. And I looked into it, and I was like, oh, man, like I should do that. I was like, I could do that, I think. So I actually signed up in 2010 and was waitlisted until 2000 whatever, and somebody must have dropped out because I got in 2013. So it was kind of just like taking a total chance. I think at that point, between signing up and going to Siebel, I had brewed one batch of beer at home. Turned out okay. I think it was like a clone of a Bell's Brown or something like that. But I just did a bunch of reading that was suggested by Keith Lemke, who was the VP there at the time, and it worked out pretty good.
Wow, that's awesome.
Diving in head first, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I to be honest, when you said Siebel, I wasn't 100% sure if that's what I thought it was, and I'm glad you cleared that up for me because I hate asking dumb questions like that. Because I think I remember hearing about it as well, and I've been brewing now for almost 9 years, so put around that time as well. Like, I think maybe Mike and I had saw that. We're like, oh, look at that! You can go to school for brewing. We should do that. I didn't do it.
And here you are.
I know, and here I am now talking to the brewers at least that. So, as far as working here goes, what I don't want to say like what have you brought to the table? What have been some of the beers that as we saw the tap list here is, I think it looks like 23 beers are on tap right now.
Yeah, at least. Right?
And quite the variety. I mean, that's what I loved about it. You can get anything.
Yeah.
And everything is really interesting. Which I mean, this is my kind of brewery where I can try 20 different beers and they're all completely different.
Yeah,
I think
actually,
it's really neat.
Jeff, my neighbor Jeff, and his family came here 2 weeks ago, and they were saying how much they went from here and then went to Microphone. So they were saying how much they liked coming here for all the beers, and that they only had like one or two at Microphone. No offense, Microphone. They started at Shore Fuse and stayed here for a while. So they were pretty excited to hear that I was coming here. What I would say, like, or I guess I'm asking, what have you brewed here so far that hasn't been something that was already here? I guess. What new beers?
Yeah.
What do you bring to the table?
This
is your new interview. We're really going to.
What do you bring to the table, right?
Oh shit! I'm in trouble now. I really think the main thing was just like bringing a little bit more diversity, because not everybody wants to drink like super hoppy or fruity hoppy or like sour, whatever. There's a lot of beer styles. But like I mentioned, bringing in spring thaw, springtime, having that Maibach in is really nice. We did the wit. There was a hef here before I started, but continuing that, trying to think, in the fall time we did a Dunkelweiss, which we got gold for at the U.S. Open Beer Championship.
Cool.
So bringing some of those like traditional styles in, I don't want to say basic, but like, straightforward beers, because think about like how many times people just like, I just want a beer.
Yeah.
Don't like throw anything crazy at me. But Suave is our Mexican lager. We've had that. I brought in a low-calorie lager, our flight path, because we're in the flight path of O'Hare Airport.
Clever.
But then just like working towards consistency on batches, flavor consistency, fermentation consistency, making sure everything like lines up batch to batch was kind of, I think, the other thing that we were really focused on, as well as bringing in a little more diversity.
Nice, yeah, and like you said, there's going to
tons of different breweries.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes there are those tap lists where there isn't just a beer, so to speak,
Right.
to go to. Everything is like so over the top with, you
Yeah.
know, either being super hazy or everything's barrel aged or everything's just an IPA, which I'm not opposed to any of that, but
Right.
it's nice to have a variety.
Yeah.
Especially bringing people with you.
I mean, it helps too when you go to places and you want a flight of beers and like, I mean, with the amount of beers on tap here,
Yeah.
you know, you could say that, you know, that's too much. But I mean, if you look at the space, I mean,
Yeah.
you can get a lot of people coming through here. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
bet you burn through some beer. But I like the idea of being able to have such a diverse list and sit down, order a flight, and then try a bunch of stuff, you know, versus like being stuck, you know, to a hoppy beer or you know, something like that. Again, same thing as you. It's not opposed to that, but I like the variety and the, you know, even though I went for a hoppy beer.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. We want to talk about the beer you got, Brandon.
Yeah, so I'm drinking the Hop Cycle, and I believe you said it was Mosaic and Citra. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is it's funny. It's lighter than I thought it was going to be. 'Cause what's the ABV on this?
7.5.
7.5. Yeah. I mean, I honestly like. I just thought it was going to feel a lot heavier, but it's super easy drinking. So I'm trying to like pace myself because I could burn right through this.
Trying to do the same with mine over here.
But and we've talked about this before. Like, you know, we like brewing with Citra, like when we homebrew, and Mosaic is, you know, really good too. So it's very well rounded, and like the hop flavor is just so prominent, but not overwhelming. There's no like real bitterness that I would expect from like, you know, a hop forward, you know, IPA. All IPAs are hop forward, but like,
Get what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, it's you're getting more citrus
Yeah.
than bitterness, which, you know, lends to those hops very well. But this is awesome. Like, this would be a go-to. Like, I would come to this place and probably order this again, you know, even though there's like 20 some other there's right. Like, this would be a solid go-to.
This is it. This is the only beer I'm ordering.
I'm
From
never
you from now
drinking
on.
anything else again.
Bad news. We probably never brewed again.
Oh boy.
I shouldn't say never, but yeah, part of our hop cycle series is like it's always a different like hop combo.
But that's cool though. That
Yeah.
would make me
Yeah,
want to come back and keep trying
That's
it.
true. Do you know what's coming next in that?
Kohatu and Zappa.
Ooh.
Pretty
I'm
excited
not
for
familiar
that.
with those.
Zappa, I think I've had maybe a Hop Butcher beer before, but Kohatu, I don't think I've ever
Yeah,
had.
Kohatu is New Zealand. It's like super tropical. It's really good. I used it in a beer at Goose like a few years ago, and I was like, whoa, this is like really good. And then Zappa, it's always hard to come by. I don't think they make a whole lot of it because I think part of the lineage is like that Neo Mexicanus, that like true American like hop variety blended with whatever I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, hop breeding is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
So,
To just think that I remember when I started brewing, and I'm like, oh, there's 7 hops. There's Cascade.
Yeah.
They all start with C.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as you get more into brewing and getting into the beers that you're buying and finding out, like, what the hell are all these hops? Like, even when I see, like, you know, experimental hop names on beers, and I'm like, man, this is really good. I don't know, like, I can't go and get it right now. It's not, like, out packaged or anything, so it pisses me off, man.
So,
Makes
like,
me angry.
you know, speaking of like hop varieties, you know, with this large list of beers, is there like when you brew, is there a hop that you prefer to use? Is one that you like the most? Because I think we said like Citra is something that we kind of go to a lot when we brew, and I don't think I've ever had a beer where I'm like, oh, I don't really like that hop. That's terrible. I mean, it's like there's some that are okay, but you know, is there ones that you like to kind of put into beers that give you flavors that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, Citra's always a good standby. I'm really big on Sabro right now. Like, I love the coconut flavor of it because it's very different than like a lot of the other tropical flavored hops that are out there. What else? I'm a big fan of Meridian.
Okay.
Coming out of Indie Hops. I think they were the ones that put that together. Chinook. I really like Chinook.
Classic.
It's just
One of the C's. There we go.
yeah, one of the C's, back to the C's. I think it's just got like a nice, like round, like piney, fruity citrus. Like, I think it's like a good combination. We actually have some really good Centennial here out of Michigan. Not always one that I go to, but the stuff that we have is pretty good. I'm trying to think what else. Galaxy. I'm a big fan of Galaxy. I know a lot of people are on the fence about that one. It's a little polarizing, but I've always had pretty good success with that.
You're a big fan of the Galaxy, aren't you?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know, when he says the Galaxy, it's like
No, I'm pretty sure I used that for one of my.
maybe that's
I
what
can't
it was.
remember which one.
Oh
It
yeah,
might have
I
been
think it
my,
was. I think it was one of
juicy-
your juicy
yeah,
one. Yeah, where
road
you're like, yeah,
soda.
I'm using Galaxy, and I was like, interesting. I was judging you.
Sorry, I won't do it again.
Please
do
don't.
apologize.
No, road soda was pretty tasty. Yeah. Well, Clark, since we're talking to you and you're about to take a sip, what are you drinking?
Ooh, I am drinking Sunday morning stacks.
Tell us
Which
about
is
that.
fantastic. Well, I'd
Saturday
love the brewer
morning.
to tell us
That's true.
about it because he'd probably do a much better job.
Well, I know. Describe what you're tasting.
Well, I'm tasting a lot of maple. I'm tasting a lot of cinnamon. Do you want to get into exactly what it is before I?
Those are the two things he said that were in there.
I mean, I wanted to tee him up.
The base beer is a wheat wine, and it also has maple syrup and cinnamon.
No, it's you guys were talking about easy drinking. I mean, for 11 and a half,
Yeah.
this, I could be done with this right now.
It's a breakfast beer.
We
man.
weren't doing
Good.
this
It's a
episode.
breakfast. Good.
No, it's a perfect breakfast beer. I mean, pancakes in there, a little. Seriously, it tastes like pancakes. Which
Pancakes
I
on
can't
the
complain.
label, so
Really?
We got everything we need.
Is that in the cooler there too?
Yeah.
That one? No, that was on the way.
Yeah, this is. I might need to grab one of those. Maybe we could
split
dual sharing
split
there. But no, this is incredibly smooth.
You need a
incredibly,
drink for the ride home?
I want to say light for an 11.5% beer, light on the mouth, but man, very impressed.
Yeah,
sneak up on you.
Yeah, I was tempted to try that as well, but I got a lot going on today.
I don't have too much going on, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm always fascinated by fascinated by the wheat wine style because I think the first wheat wine I ever had was at Pipeworks, and it was like a 4th of July beer, like Uncle Sam vs. Unicorn or some shit like that. And it was a wheat wine. I might be mixing that all up, but I was like, wheat wine? I'm like, I know a barley wine, but a wheat wine? This is brilliant. It's a brand new thing. I've never heard of this. And I like the wheat wine, mainly because the body that you get from it that's not as thin as like a barley wine.
right.
Barley wine's good, but I've realized as having a non this is gonna sound so like shitty. I don't really like having a non-barrel aged barley wine anymore.
I'm with you.
I
It's
can-
okay. It's
I
okay
can
to say
see that.
I had one. I'm not gonna say what it was, but I had one this last Christmas, and I was like really excited to buy it. I was like, all right, it's been a while since I had this. Cracked it open, I took a sip. I was like, it's good.
What is it? The extra bitterness that comes out of it, or something
It's
that
like,
is kind
like
of toned
tea,
down.
like a tea tannin or something to it. Like a tannins in it, or I don't know if I'm using not tannins, but it reminds me of the bitterness of like herbal tea.
Okay. Well, wait, what was when we did our plop day, was it a wheat wine or a barley wine that we didn't like?
Well,
it was the wheat wine,
It
right?
was a wheat wine.
Yeah.
We won't, we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I was trying to think, I just remember not liking that one.
That's
So-
correct. It was old.
It was old. It was old, and that's what we'll leave it at.
Sore subject.
We don't want to talk about that again.
We'll talk about it afterward. So can you give us a little history? Actually, I mean, we jumped straight into your history, but can you give us a little history on Short Fuse?
This is our 4th year. Obviously, a couple years before I started, I don't really know what happened here because I wasn't here. But yeah, I mean, we've got this huge space, restaurant, we're a 30-barrel brewing system. We're probably doing about close to 5,000 barrels a year.
Oh, wow.
This is a little more recent history.
Sure. Yeah, that's totally.
We've got a pretty good distribution footprint in eastern and like southern Wisconsin. Our distributor there just expanded us from like the Milwaukee area into the Madison area.
Cool.
And we also have a distributor up in Michigan, mostly on like the east, like central east side. Things have been going pretty good up there.
To your side, Clark.
I'm on the west side.
Oh, sorry. Forgot.
Confusing.
That's like where
Math,
most of the
left
beer
and
is.
right.
Two things I don't really know: math and directions.
And,
Anyway.
What else? We've got a pretty good coverage in Illinois. We work with, they're not a distributor here, they're more of like a delivery service on whatever like legal roundabout thing they have, but we send beer over to them, they'll put together orders and like send those out, so that works out pretty well.
Yeah.
What else? We've had some like really good growth. We survived last year pretty well, all things considered.
Amen.
We've had some pretty good investment in new equipment, new tanks, new can line. I'm trying to think what else. Like redoing our barrel program. So definitely a lot of changes in the year and a half that I've been here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I see more short fuse beers on the shelves now.
Yeah.
In Chicago than I used to. I don't know if that's maybe.
I think, well, that's prominent for a lot of the breweries. A lot of the places you're
That's
seeing
true,
more on
yeah,
the
that's
shelf
right.
because,
a lot more cans.
you know, the pandemic forced people into
Yeah.
you know, breweries that weren't canning started canning because they had to get their stuff out the door.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about last year.
Yeah.
I blocked it out. It was all that barley wine I drank.
Barrel aged, of course.
Yes, barley. Of course.
But,
go ahead.
well, what I was going to say though, so has this always been the original location?
Yeah.
That's pretty. Have you guys always had this entire space?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, this is an impressive spot. So for folks that are listening, if you haven't been out here, I mean, if you're worried about needing to social distance, don't worry, you got some space.
Yeah.
This place is massive, and with those garage doors that open up,
Yep.
that's pretty sweet. We'll have to take some pictures.
Yeah.
We can throw those up when we post the episode. But
Yeah, the restaurant side is roughly 9,000 square feet, between 9 and 10. So,
Which size it was? So which is
Where the booths are, I think.
so yeah. Well, I mean, this whole thing.
Yeah,
Tap
sure.
room, restaurant, and then our little seating area outside. Enjoy the summer weather, spring weather.
Summer, spring,
Summer.
weather. Yeah. So what? I didn't know how to pronounce. What's the beer that I'm drinking?
Pêche Sauvage.
Ah, yes, Pêche Sauvage. This as soon as I took a sip of this was like I feel like I would have my wife try this for like brunch, like a brunch
Yeah,
beer.
right.
It's really good. It's I wasn't expecting. It's a sour, correct?
Yeah.
It's
Or wild.
Wild?
Say wild.
yeah. It's not like sour. But it's nice and tart. Peach flavor is really good. It's very refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you guys do have a lot of, I don't want to say crazy beers, but you guys have a lot of crazy beers. Like the ones you talked about, the Very Bad Kids, I was very close to getting the Sour Patch,
good.
Watermelon Sour Patch Kid inspired beer. That sounds awesome. But this is very straightforward as far as being, like you said, a wild fermented beer with peach. It's really good. I could drink this all the time too. Guys, we chose well. I feel like we chose.
I think it's a nice assortment.
Yeah.
Represent everything. And then, what are you drinking? Yeah, I know you were talking about it before.
We got our Nitro Mocha Stout. So it's our peanut butter cup stout base beer before the peanut butter is added. Then we just let it sit, let it steep on some coffee for a few days. It came out pretty nice.
Nice. So you were saying that you were probably, like, the idea was you had it for your peanut butter, what was the peanut butter beer? Stout
peanut butter cup.
base, peanut butter cup stout,
Yeah.
and then now you guys are going to try and do some other variants with it as well?
Yeah, so looking at like potential variants, can we justify brewing a little bit extra peanut butter cup stout and then taking, a portion of that, whether it's 2.5 barrels or 10 barrels, and doing a peanut butter variant? Or can we take some of that beer before the peanut butter and like do something else like the mocha or, whatever else?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit, really, because, we have all these weird beers, crazy beers.
And I know you're not drinking that one, but so speaking of a peanut butter stout, what do you guys do to get the peanut butter in the beer? What do you use specifically?
So we have powdered peanut butter. We brew with that. So we do about 100 pounds of that in the boil, like the last 10 minutes of the boil, just to get it to mix up pretty well. Because we used to add it to the whirlpool and used to clump quite a bit.
I can see that.
And we'd have to like stir it in, and that just got annoying. So I figured if we add it in the last 10 minutes, use some of the agitation of the boil to mix it up, as well as the whirlpool. And then we found a really good peanut butter flavor that we'll dose into the bread tank.
Nice. Yeah, I've done one peanut butter beer in the past, and I, for some reason, thought it'd be a good idea to make it for my block party where it was like 90 degrees. And it was a peanut butter porter.
I remember that.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I think like 2 people tried it.
Refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was a peanut butter sour, actually.
Did you use powdered peanut butter? Or
no, that time I just used the extract,
Oh, that's right.
flavoring,
Yeah.
But you and I, I did another one where I did use, I think I used PB2 in it, which worked great. And I used it for protein shakes.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say,
My beer, my
this
protein.
is a healthy beer.
It's good for you.
I'm gonna start eating protein shake beers. Oh man.
I'm surprised nobody's done that. taken like protein powder and just dumped it into a beer and then like
I'm sure somebody
I feel
has.
like somebody has done that.
call it muscle milk and then get sued.
Yeah. That's a good way to get recognition. Yeah. And just throw it out there. So one of the beers that I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if this is, from you being here, because there's, like you said, you weren't here from the beginning.
Yeah.
One of my favorite beers that I didn't expect to like from Short Fuse, someone brought it over for my birthday, was the Berry White. And it was in my refrigerator. I left it in there for I'd say a good 2 weeks. So I was finally like, all right, I'm gonna give it a try.
Nervous.
I'm not nervous, but it just didn't seeing the gummy bears on the can. I'm like, it's a very clever name, but I was so surprised that how much it's a refreshing wheat beer, and then it fucking tastes like gummy bears. So is that again just another flavoring thing? You don't have to give away secrets.
No, it's the actual gummy bears.
That's
awesome. We made the change shortly after I started talking with our other brewer, because we were brewing double batches for a 60-barrel batch. And I was like, well, I mean, it's kind of annoying to waste that second day. It's like, why don't we just brew a high gravity batch and water it back? So we changed to that, and then once we get towards the end of fermentation, maybe 2 Play-Doh before terminal, we'll melt 300 pounds of gummy bears, and that's the last addition / water back to get it in line with the 4.8%.
Yeah.
So we actually had straight up gummy bears.
Wait, so do you do that after the boil, or does it go into the boil?
So we boil it to melt it down.
Yeah.
So we have our brew day, and we'll brew a 30-barrel batch to about 20 Play-Doh, and then we'll water that back. So we're at the end of the brew day, we wind up with about 45 barrels of beer, and then about a week later, we'll melt roughly 50 barrels of water with 300 pounds of gummy bears. And that gets us a full 60-barrel batch and all that delicious gummy bear flavor.
That's ridiculous. I was like,
I saw. It was funny seeing your reaction, when he said, and then we just melt the gummy bears.
Just melt them.
You were literally like,
Yeah. Oh,
what? Wait. And I also
it was also like an aha moment, because at the same time I was like, in my head I was like, I bet they melt them, and he's like, yeah, we melt them. I'm like, oh my god, they melt them.
My other thought was that maybe you were like,
I just
all
want to
right,
see
so
the
how do I
image.
do
Of
it?
Yeah, how am I going to do this?
I want to see an image of 300 pounds of gummy bears just melting.
It's got to be a big purple.
Yeah, how are they
sauce.
melting? Is it in liquid or?
Yeah, it's in the water, right?
Yeah, so we add the water to the kettle, and we get it boiling, and we'll put CO2 through the bottom to help agitate it and to also deaerate the water. And it just mixes it up, and then we'll run the whirlpool in the kettle for 20 minutes or so, make sure everything's pretty well mixed up, and then we just cool it down and shoot it over.
How fun is that to clean?
It's better when we started.
When we have interns.
Yeah. When I started, we were still experimenting with stuff, and we'd wind up with a lot of gummy bears with the gelatinous mess at the bottom. And well, we gotta mix this up better. We're not getting our full potential here.
Yeah.
So that was a pain to clean, because you'd get some just slowly just drip out and drain, just pathetically draining. And now it works out pretty good. So we'll run a quick 20-30 minute caustic cycle afterwards, and
That's it.
it's not too bad.
Yeah, have you guys ever had a chance to try it?
I haven't. No.
You guys should have had. You guys should have had it for it.
Should have.
But you stuck with your.
I'm enjoying it
your
thoroughly.
40%.
Yeah, 40%. It's only 40.
Well, at least it's not the 62% beer out there.
That's what's Tony, buddy.
That's our secret.
Yeah.
It's our moonshine that's blended with something.
Do you guys have anything? Anything? You had mentioned the bike ride. That you guys had last weekend. You guys have anything? I mean, with everything kind of opening up, and by kind of I mean actually it's opening up. I mean there's summer festivals now, and people are getting vaccinated and whatnot. It seems to be like we're on the path of some normalcy here. Do you guys have any set in stone plans coming up for the year?
We do. So currently we do beer yoga I don't think it's not like every weekend, but we have like set dates you can check like on our Instagram and website. But the next one we have coming up on June 12th, Saturday, is our Hops in the Summer. So previously we had done a festival called Hops in the Spring. It was canceled last year for unfortunate reasons. So we're bringing it back this year in Hops in the Summer. And what it is just like it's a big festival here, like parking lot inside the brewery. We have all of our beers, plus we'll have beers from like a number of other breweries like in the area. I don't know what the list of other breweries is right now, at least what's finalized. Sure. But we usually have quite a few, so it's a pretty good mix.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not that far. We should come.
I'm in.
Brandon?
Let's do it.
All right.
Sold it. Thanks. Yeah, it's nice to hear all these things that are coming back and like I said, returning to a bit more normalcy here. It's nice to be. I mean, when was the last time? I know we did one interview last year.
I think it was
Two.
Ailman.
Oh, we did
Ailman.
two. We did three. Never mind. We did 3 interviews last year. That
Yeah.
was it.
Well, summer was
It was a
sort
little
of
different.
normal.
Yeah, that's true. Ailman, we were fully masked up.
Where are those guys at right now?
They're like near, let's say Addison and Cicero's.
Yeah.
Basically.
I did. I'm just curious because the in between like the Siebel course, like the master course, you have May off, and I came home from Germany and actually did a couple weeks of volunteer work at Beguile. This was back when Matt was still the head brewer. Like the first day I went in there to help, he was cleaning out a tank. It was an Ailman Stone collaboration with cedar chips. And they had just dumped the chips into the fermenter, and Matt was just like, all right, we're cleaning this out, and it's like totally clogged. Like you can imagine cedar chips trying to come out of like an 1.5 inch pipe. And he's like, so I'm gonna need you to empty this. What? It took a while. The beer was actually like really, really good. I mean, you think like cedar chips, maybe, but it turned out pretty nice.
That'd be my moment. I don't know if I want to be a brewer.
See you later.
Let's move on to gummy bears. That's easy.
What's your stance on gummy bears?
Cedar chips, no thanks.
So that's my little aside there.
Yeah, that's funny.
I was gonna say I was gonna kind of follow up on the Ailman thing. That's what we did. We did that one in person. What else did we? Oh, we talked to Crushed by Giants
and Holzlager.
Yeah, Holzlager. Yeah, so
Holzlager, we were spread out. That was a fun one to do, driving out to Woodstock. The only problem was midway through the episode, which I'm happy, the music turned on over.
because they were getting ready to open,
Yeah,
so staff fired up the radio.
Yeah.
So what about have you guys done any collaborations with other breweries?
Not yet. So the one collaboration we've done is Pinches Miches. They make michelada mix. Smaller company.
Pinches Miches.
Their stuff I think is in most like bigger stores, like in the refrigerated section.
think I've seen it.
But we did a michelada with them last year,
Oh, nice.
10 barrels, and it's sold out. So we did it with our Flight Path lager. So we high gravity brew that and then like water it back. And what we actually did to keep the ABV at like a 4.2, I think, is we just took the full strength, like 8% beer, and just like watered that back with the michelada mix and water to get to 4%. So we didn't really sacrifice any like beer flavor or like wind up dipping below that. But that turned out really good. Like I like Bloody Marys, like brunch and stuff like that. Micheladas are tasty. But this one was really good. So we've got a batch of our Flight Path that we're trying to work out the tomato aspect, so we can do it like sanitarily, dose it in with the flavors and stuff. I think we figured something out. So we're pretty close to getting that wrapped up. But no, in terms of like other breweries, I've talked to Brian at Pollyanna, who's a friend of mine, about doing something, because when I was at 1090 Contract Brewing, they were the first collaboration that we did while they were working to open up their space in Lamont. So probably, kind of bring that like full circle kind of thing.
That's cool.
But we should be doing more collaborations, I think. We got to get back into that.
Yeah, those are always fun. I always like to, it's cool to see the community of breweries that we have here in the greater Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
Which, it's competition, obviously, but everybody seems to kind of work together in that sense of like, hey, let's work on a beer together, because everybody knows somebody at some other place, it seems. At least that's what I'm learning.
Pretty much.
From talking to everybody.
Yeah. The degrees of separation are small.
Yeah, so you mentioned like last year during the pandemic, I think you kind of noted that you did some revamping to your barrel program.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't had a barrel-aged beer from you guys, but kind of talk about like what's in store, like what you guys are, working on.
So we kind of determined going through some of the barrels that none of it was really kind of up to par with what we would feel comfortable releasing. So we got rid of it all. We started from scratch, and we cleaned the floors back there. We actually, the whole half of the brewery, in like the packaging and barrel and storage, we like totally refinished. A little DIY. It looks okay. It's not professional. But we started from scratch, and we got a pretty good mix of stuff, sour, wild, and like bourbon stuff. So we've got the Imperial Oatmeal Stout, Imperial Rye. We have a barley wine. I'm trying to think what else. We have one Imperial Stout that's pays a little homage to Goose Island and Bourbon County, and kind of like starting and revolutionizing barrel-aged beers. I'm trying to think what else. We have one that I'm actually really excited for through BSG, Leopold Brothers, which is a distillery in Denver. They malt their own malt, and they got into doing malt for breweries, and they sell it through there. So we have whiskey malt.
Oh wow!
For like beer, it's not like the high, extract like a distilling malt. So we use that specialty malt from Proximity in Colorado, and then actually got barrels from Leopold Brothers.
Oh wow!
So I'm very excited for that because the barrels smelled incredible. But we've got some sours and like wine barrels, rum barrels. We put our wit into what did we put it into? Pinot Grigio barrels. So we've got like quite a bit of mix of stuff. So we should have some stuff coming out maybe the next couple months.
Cool.
We're hoping.
We will be on the lookout.
We have
for
a
that,
lot of reasons to come back. Many times.
numerous. This is where we should have our meetings from now on.
Yeah.
Yes. Official. We'll sell the office downtown at the corner of State and Dearborn.
Yes. I think it's time we got
The corporate office. Yeah.
Go to the corporate
And
office.
move it out here.
We'll just come
We'll
here.
just take out. We'll build a little drywall corner.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. Sure. We're quiet. Don't worry.
Speaking of the barrels too, you mentioned a couple of them. So what, as far as the barrels that you got, what barrels are you most excited for to see the results of?
We have some Pappy barrels. We have 6. I believe we have 6 Pappy barrels. I'm trying to think what else. We've got some Weller. We've got Blanton's, Willett. We've actually had some pretty good success getting barrels.
That's awesome. Well, there's a line actually. People are already coming out.
And then what else? Our rye, Imperial Rye Stout, I'm pretty excited about because it's going to be a blend of Templeton, Willett, and I'm trying to think of the other one. It's been so long since we filled these barrels. It's like a blend of 4 different ryes.
Oh wow!
So like pretty popular ones. So that'd be pretty cool. I'm trying to think what else. There are like a few other barrels that we have. We got some. Oh, we've got a Scotch ale in Scotch barrels. That should be pretty interesting.
That's fun. I Lake Effect, I think, did something like that with the Loch Ness.
Yeah.
That ended up being pretty good. And I never would have thought of like, it makes sense. Scotch ale and a Scotch barrel. It's a play on it, but yeah, I like Scotch. I don't love Scotch. So
Peated or unpeated?
Peated.
You don't like peated?
I don't really care for it.
Well, Goose did that Scotch. Was it Bourbon County a couple years ago?
Yeah.
No, you and I
it was
both.
it was the Cooper.
The Cooper
Cooper
series.
series.
Cooper series. Yeah. Which I think I like that one.
Were you still there when?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
He's like, that was actually mine. Thanks, dick.
That one I think got mixed.
It did.
No,
Lila.
we were sitting there at Fulton, and we
yeah,
were both
mixed
like, this is
results,
great.
yeah.
I understand if you don't like Scotch why you wouldn't like it, but
I feel like that was the first time that like I appreciated that bit of like smoking it.
Definitely.
My brother-in-law, he's a big Scotch, not big Scotch drinker, but he enjoys Scotch and he's got a collection of it, so he's always trying to find one that I like. So a Scotch barrel-aged beer always intrigues me. It's not like when I hear a Malort barrel-aged beer where I'm like, I have to try that. I'm the opposite of, no thank you.
What about a Fernet barrel aged?
So I have had a Fernet barrel-aged beer, and it was a stout, and it almost gave off like this, which is weird, like a mint flavor. Which Fernet, I guess, you know, I forget what kind of, it's like a liqueur, right? Or not liqueur, but
yeah, like
working on it.
Aperitif.
Thank you. There you go.
Thing.
Yeah.
A digestif.
Digestif. That's what. Liqueur. Digestif.
How many other French words do I know?
Is that kind of like bitters? Because bitters is supposed to be a digestive.
Italian type of Amaro, a bitter, aromatic spirit.
Yeah. It was.
It is bitter. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really good. And I didn't know what to expect. I had never had it until I tried that beer. That was when I was again working at Lake Effect. I got to try. We had to bottle it off, and I got to try it. It was really good. And I told him, I'm like, kind of tastes minty, and he was like, I don't know about that. I'm like, well, that's what I get from it. I like it.
You are wrong, Tony. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Who's got the Malort? Oh, isn't Lake Effect doing
Lake
Malort?
Effect, and I know that Revolution.
Yeah,
they're doing some stuff with Malort.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, I know a lot of people who do like Malort. It's
everybody in the service industry.
Yeah. No,
I will say, I had
not
my
in it.
first sip of Malort a couple months ago. It wasn't awful. I mean, I could sip it if I
Maybe
had to or wanted to.
I will give it one more chance.
It's gotten better, I think, now that it's been moved up to.
It's not quite
CH
what it
distilling.
used to be.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was like early 2020. I went downtown, got together with one of the guys from Goose, and we had some beers. And he likes Malort. So I don't know. It's weird because he's a Philly guy, and he like went to the bar to get beers, but came back with Malort. And I was just like, what are you doing? I was like, it's not this kind of night. He's like, just trust me, it's better. I was like, all right, fine. And it's better. Yeah. I'm not huge on like Malort or like Fernet or any of that stuff. Scotch, bourbon, that's a different story.
Sure.
But
it's a whole different world.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's gotten better, I think.
All right, I'll give it a
shot.
I'll give it another shot.
Yeah, I think I had it once, but this was like 2016 maybe, and I had it.
I think this
was at Fishman's, and I think they had a bottle, and I took a shot of it, and I was like, here's the thing: is like I like bitters. Like I'll take shots of bitters, and like Underberg.
Yeah,
like
Underberg,
that stuff.
I like, yeah.
So it's in that same wheelhouse. Yeah. So when I think about that, and I'm like, all right, it's not the worst thing in the world that I've had.
I'm with you.
Would I drink it on the regular?
No.
It's not gonna replace my bourbon or a beer.
Couple sips a year, fine.
Yeah. Am I gonna buy a bottle? Maybe if I have people from out of town that I want to see their reaction, because apparently like that's a big thing. It's like watch your out of town friends like hate you. It was funny because for our wedding we ended up we had gift bags for everyone that was staying at the hotel. We put in little bottles of Underberg because we couldn't find. They didn't make them at the time, like those little bottles of Malort. That's what we wanted. And then literally it was like a couple months after our wedding, and I think it was probably when CH Distillery started taking over, they started producing the little like 1 ounce bottles or whatever. I was like, damn it!
I still have a bunch of that Underberg that you gave me. Thank you very much.
I still have a bunch of that Underberg because he gave me a case of it. There was like 144 little bottles of Underberg, and I'm like, they still have like half a pallet sitting in my house.
Just drop it off at Dovetail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Donation. There you go.
Hagen a bill like that. They go through that stuff like crazy.
Yeah.
So what are you, I mean, we talked about kind of upcoming events here, but brewing-wise, what are you most excited for the rest of this year? Like, what are you looking forward to kind of accomplishing?
Oh, boy. Not have to look at our brewing schedule for the rest of the year.
And we come with the hard-hitting questions.
I know, right? Yeah. The next hop cycle, that Kohatu Zappa, I'm pretty excited for. We have some stuff towards the end of the year. We're going to do a Sati. We got some some Viking malt out of Finland. That's some Sati malt for that.
Cool.
And then what I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've noticed is gaining a lot of popularity, is Norwegian style ale. Not beers brewed with kvikis, but like Norwegian styles. And one of the largest, or not the largest, but like most like under the radar beers is the smoked beers out of Norway. I don't speak Norwegian, but I think it's pronounced Stjordal. Don't quote me on that.
Get on that, Clark. How do you pronounce that?
Stordal. But this region, they malt their own malt for like all this homebrew, and part of it is smoking it over alderwood, which you can't really. Actually, Sugar Creek Malting does alderwood smoked malt, but we have beechwood for it. But it's just juniper branches, maybe like a little bit of sugar, caramel malts.
Interesting.
So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then for anybody that's been here, we have a bunch of murals painted on the walls, doing more beers inspired by those.
Cool.
So we have this woman here. We did last year a red ale, an Irish red for that. And then this fire starter, I want to do a smoked red ale.
Cool.
This one guy over here is what we did the Scotch ale for, at least the barrel aged version. But we'll do like a normal, like maybe like a standard strength. A porter for one in the back, and then the far one is still a mystery. So kind of bringing some of those into the mix. Again, going back to like diversity in the list.
I was going to ask about especially the fire starter, because that one looked like it was specifically like put there because it's a beer already.
No,
Yeah, that's
other
funny.
way around. Yeah. So I mean, that's what I can think of right now without looking at our. We've mapped out like our year brewing schedule, tentative, just to kind of help with like ingredients and planning and ordering and stuff like that. But I know we have like a number of other things, traditional beers, more stuff in line with like our fruited IPAs. Those are always changing, always different fruits. Our pie series.
Ooh.
So the like those
You
little
like pie?
so those like little Hostess hand pies.
Yeah.
So Hostess used to be here in Schiller Park.
right.
So we did cherry pie last year, and that turned out pretty good. And our next one is going to be key lime pie.
Ooh, cool.
So we've asked this a couple brewers and breweries, and it seems like you have it all figured out. But has there been one idea that just did not work? Like you threw in whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, you have all
Was
these
that beer
crazy
with the circus peanuts? It was just
Yeah. You have all these
Those are a
awesome,
weird
crazy
flavor.
ingredients that you
Those don't taste good.
figured out. So maybe you don't have one.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of trial and error, but
But
No.
you even talked about like stuff in your barrels that didn't work out.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
that,
So no cheeseburger beers or
No cheese.
no mayonnaise beers.
mayonnaise beers.
Mayonnaise F.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say like nothing that like didn't work out, but I think there's things that like, okay, like we need to like back off on this, or we need to like increase, something else. But I wouldn't say yet, at least at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, obviously we're always experimenting, and I had a conversation with somebody recently about like, well, how do you, if it's something you've never brewed with before, like how do you know how much to use? I was like, sometimes it's just a total shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
I was like, sometimes I think of things like that in terms of like, how much would I want? Like, if you think about like a standard half barrel keg, like, how much of this would I want inside that?
Yeah.
Like, that's honestly how I start with a lot of things. Like, all right, like a pound, that seems like a little bit too much kind of thing. And you just kind of go from there. And hopefully sometimes it's the thing where you can like adjust, if it's a hot side edition, maybe you can adjust on the cold side.
Sure.
And you kind of luck out or save yourself there. But yeah, I think so far we've done good. I don't know how much our luck is going to last on that, but hopefully it keeps going.
With everything that
Yeah, no kidding.
we've seen here, and even the stuff that we didn't go too crazy. Clark, you did, you psycho.
Yeah,
And,
still a sip though.
and the stuff that I've tried, like I said, the Berry White, you guys seem to be knocking it out of the park. So that's.
Thanks.
I hope it continues to. I hope you guys don't have that batch. You're like, well, shit. shouldn't have listened to them with the circus peanuts. That was disgusting.
Circus peanut mayonnaise beer. Maybe that's what he thinks.
Circus peanut stout rolls off the tongue very nicely, but it
does.
doesn't sound good.
So weird. What is that
I don't know.
flavor?
Gross. I think it's just labeled as like plastic. Like circus peanuts is like orange plastic. It's all
Like
with
that
sugar.
flavor doesn't exist in nature, does it?
It doesn't. It's only the circus peanut.
Worst idea ever.
Now I'm gonna make one.
Please don't.
It's gonna be at your house. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
I asked all my hard-hitting questions.
Brandon, you got any more hard-hitting questions?
No, I think
So we want to dig into?
I think we covered it.
All right, right on.
Cool.
Well, I'm glad we finally made it out here.
Yeah.
Like I said, Clark said, we're going to build our office right behind us here. If anybody,
We'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll give you a
Okay.
day to tell everybody.
Don't mind the construction.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know. And anybody who's obviously in the greater Chicagoland area, or if you're visiting Chicago, definitely come out here. I almost said Franklin Park, Schiller Park.
If you have a really long layover at O'Hare,
Yeah, it's not that far.
yeah.
by
Pretty
any
sure
means.
we are the closest brewery to O'Hare.
Yeah. You don't
But now
have
that
to.
Ram's gone, right? Ram's not brewing anymore.
Oh, no,
right?
Well, they
yeah.
do have that facility right up the road.
Are they still brewing there? I don't know.
Well, and isn't Hofbrau? That's.
Oh, the Hofbrau's gone.
Yeah. that's
Well-
gone.
It's gonna be a pizza joint now.
They will retain. They are keeping the brewing system.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they own it.
So I don't know if they'll, because the owners of that building are our landlords. Like they own this building
wow.
as well. So like the owner here and them like obviously talk quite a bit. So
Yeah.
they're gonna keep their brewing system.
Oh, cool.
They will be a pizza joint.
Beer and pizza. Can't go wrong with
Makes
that.
sense, right?
Perfect, yeah, perfect combo.
Circus peanut.
Beer and circus peanuts.
Great. Well, Brian, thanks again, man, for joining us today,
sure. Thanks,
pouring
guys.
some beers, talking beers, giving us a little about your history and your, very long time that you spent here. That you can give us all that history. We appreciate it, and we all will be back very soon.
Sounds
That's
good.
for sure.
Brandon, love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Clark, and why don't you send us out with a poem?
I do have a poem ready to go. Well, or a word.
Yeah.
Pronunciation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
Can
good
you
job.
repeat that, Tony?
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
This has been The Malting Hour. Be sure to follow us on all social media by searching The Malting Hour and at themaltinghour.com. You can also follow us on social media platforms individually. Brandon can be found on Instagram as BMDub81, on Twitter, BDub81, on Untapped, BDub Drinks Beer. Tony can be found on Instagram and Untapped under Asa Phelps Chicago, on Twitter, The Asa Phelps Chicago. Clark can be found as Clarkowski on all three. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate the show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Until next time, cheers from all of us at The Malting Hour.